Maren was kind enough to put together a presentation that she and I used at the career day. And it's, I don't know how many slides, you can probably count them, but there's basically one that I'm going to talk about most. So there's not a great deal. This is not rocket surgery, what I'm going to talk about, all right? We're going to talk about a couple of things, though, in advance of that. And that is the way that you and your firm can, in particular, communicate with the media, and some of the venues and media that you can use. Among them, as you'll see up here, there are newsletters and press releases and op-ed pieces. These are things that you can author yourself. One of the things that I do as a firm, and this is not a commercial, but we will ghostwrite stories for charter holders and financial services firms. And so we have any number of clients with which we do business, where if you see something in the paper, we might have written it. And I'll give you an example. One of our clients is Mark's Group Wealth Management. And a guy who runs is a former UBS guy named Ben Marks. And one of the hallmarks of their portfolio is the fact that they specialize, or they have a very heavy weighting within their portfolios of regional and in particular Minnesota stocks. And so we went in and they want their name in the paper. And well, of course they first wanted to be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and if they were, I told them that if they were doing that, the chances are it would be for some degree of wrongdoing. And so they didn't necessarily want to be there. But the fact is, we had to develop an angle. And the angle that we've developed for the Marks Group is quite simple. They are the new Mars and Power. And Mars and Powers has been known for many, many, many years for having a very backyard orientation. And prior to Mars and Powers, you had guys like Bing Carland of IAI, who had his regional fund. And one of the things you're going to learn, and I'm going to keep hammering on this, is that our local media wants local stories. They want things that are pertinent to a local newspaper that have a local angle. And so chances are you're going to be contacted, if you are contacted, for things along these lines. And so the more that you can bring things home to Minnesota, the better. You can go on CNN and MSNBC and Fox Business, and you can get talking heads all day long to talk about the markets and where they think the markets are going and what is important to focus on from a broad point of view. There's, Jim Cramer is out there touting stocks, 4 or 5 nights a week or however often he's on. And so this kind of information is really, really common. And so consequently, one of the things you're going to hear from me throughout this little presentation is 3 words: keep it local. Keep it local, keep it local. Bring it home and make sure that it's somehow pertinent, because as a former business reporter, that's all I was doing all day long. How does this affect us here? And I wanted to finish my story about Ben. We wrote an op-ed piece for him, and it was called something along the lines of profitable, boring but profitable. And basically what we did there is we talked about 5 Minnesota stocks that he owns. And we disclosed in the piece that he owns them for compliance purposes. And we disclosed, here's why I own these stocks. And he got more uptake on that single story. And so when I talk to buy-side guys in particular, one of the things I tell them that you need to be willing to say something. You need to be willing to say something of substance. Since the global settlement happened, the sell-side guys can't talk. And you cannot get those guys to talk at all about what's going on. And this is now a marketplace that is dominated by the buy side. And so if you're willing to say to a reporter why you like a story or why you don't like a story, you will be richly rewarded for it. And again, a program I I manage for many of our clients is I tell them, what do you own in your portfolio? Why do you own it? Is it a Minnesota company? And when earnings season comes around, I will just toss your name out there. And when the reporter has to write the earnings story for it, they call you up. And you get quoted. So, anyway. We're going to talk about several audiences in addition to the media. Besides reporter, you have investors. You have your other clients, namely those influencers here in town. You know, many wealth managers are dependent upon accounting firms and law firms to steer clients their way, and so they have a certain point of view to which you need to appeal. And then you have Ma and Pa Anoka. And one of the things I tell all of my clients is, and this is a very important thing that you need to know as a professional, getting your name in the newspaper will not get you clients. Let me repeat this. Getting your name in the newspaper will not get you clients. And I can't tell you the number of times I've had people come back to me, wow, we got this story in the paper. Why hasn't my phone been ringing? That's not your audience. Your audience that reads the Star Tribune or even the Wall Street Journal most likely is not going to pick up that paper and say, goodness gracious, that person was quoted, therefore they must be a credible investor, and therefore I'm going to give them my money. People don't work that way. People don't operate that way. The people who read newspapers and read magazines and get information from newspapers and magazines are people who do it themselves, or they're people who don't have enough money to hire you. What the mention does do for you, however, is that it validates your presence in the investment community. And that is valuable. It might not get new assets in the door, but on the other hand, it's going to say, you know, these people have enough of a standing in the community that some journalist who may or may not know anything about finance is going to call them up and talk to them. And it's that simple. So what you then do, the key is the follow-up. What you then do when you get a piece in the paper is you send it to your existing clients. Look, somebody noticed me. And it cements your relationship with your existing clients. That's what it does. All right, this is it. This is the whole presentation. That's it. Read it, we're done. When talking to the media, you need to remember three things. Answer the phone, answer the questions, tell the truth. Now you think, wow, what a waste of my time. But let me go through each one. Answer the phone. I cannot tell you the number of clients we have had who get a call from the media, and they'll get a call like Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'll call them up, and the reporter will call me and say, hey, I called your client. And then I'll call them up in a day or so, and I say, hey, how did the interview go? Oh, I haven't had a chance to call them back yet. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you the number of times I've had that. When someone calls you from the media, you drop everything and call them back. Even if you're not yet ready to talk to them, but you call them back right away. You assume some reporters are smart enough or sharp enough to say that, you know, to tell you, well, I need to hear from you within 24 hours. But if you want to be in print and someone calls you, there is a fairly good chance, especially if they're working for a daily newspaper, that they're writing for tomorrow. There's even a better chance that they're writing for 2 hours from now if they're blogging. There's an even better chance that they're writing from 20 minutes from now if they're updating a website. So now, you know, you have a 24-hour news cycle, and because these guys are required to update electronic media as well. It's no longer a 24-hour news cycle where, you know, somebody calls at 4:30 in the afternoon, they're writing for tomorrow's paper. They might call at 10:30 and they may have to post by 2 o'clock in the afternoon before the markets close. And so understand that unless you are told specifically how much time you have to call them back, assume that they need to hear from you right away. And again, let me back that up a little bit. If you're not ready to talk, that's okay. Ask them what they want to talk about. And if you need to gather some data, say, well, you know, Ramsey here is this walking encyclopedia of data. And so the chances are, if I know my local resources, and I'm going to call Doug and I'm going to say, Doug, I need, you know, X number of things off FactSet and all these different places, and I know it's going to take them a few minutes to get it for me. And if somebody wants you to do a data dump for them, then you are legitimately allowed to say, I got to get back to you because I got to get some stuff together so that I can speak to you intelligently. How much time do I have to do that?